was when my parents got divorced. So, I had a lot of anxiety then, and I tried, I'm the oldest. So I try to um, uh, watch out for my brothers. My dad was really depressed about it, and I had to see him go through that. And so I was, constantly trying to, keep tabs on everything, hope, make sure everyone was feeling fine all the time, that kind of thing. And then I kind of I liked school more, I played sports and almost every sport growing up. And then, it hit like, puberty. And I think that's when anxiety came on even stronger. Um, I would say like up until sixth grade, I still say that I think I worried a lot more than most kids, but I wouldn't say that I felt like that true, like, impacting anxiety attack. And I would think that would have came like right when puberty really hit. And I think that's when I started to feel this kind of fear. Also guilt. Like guilt comes up in it a lot, like which is weird. I don't really know. Why? I don't know what I'm feeling guilty about. But it's like guilt mixed with fear. Um, and then I also, I had like really bad menstrual cycles. I was in a lot of pain. My PMS was bad, so not normal by any means. And that would flare up anxiety. And I used to actually get sick every time it came along. I would get like a cold, and it would last a while. And doctors say it's not connected, um, but and then I I went to a I went to a volleyball tournament, and I must have been a sophomore, and that was my first time. I had trouble sleeping, and I would like wear earplugs and try to take like Lunesta on the over the counter stuff, and I wish my parents would have taken me to a psychiatrist for that reason alone. Maybe not for other drugs, but to get it kicked out. And I think the first time I didn't sleep for about 3 days straight. I was at a volleyball festival, and we were playing 12-hour days in the heat, and I didn't sleep for a minute, and then I had an anxiety attack, and it was like one I've never experienced. I think prior to that, I went to Japan with my father, and my uncle had killed himself while I was gone, and that obviously was terrible anxiety, and I didn't know who was dead because there was a language, interference, and I didn't know what had happened, and that was a fear. But this anxiety attack was like a fear so much greater than that, because I didn't know why. You know, I didn't. There was no one that had a phone call. My father wasn't crying. There wasn't some big event. It was just I hadn't slept, and all of a sudden I'm in a restaurant, and I need to get outside, and I don't know what to do. And so that was my really first, like, this is what an anxiety attack feels like. And like thankfully it lasted like about an hour to an hour and a half, which is a long time for how bad it was. And I ended up falling asleep. Then after that, I I kind of, I guess that's probably, my anxiety kind of heightened. Through high school, I definitely had problems with appearance then. Maybe, if I go back to that question, I guess. Um, I felt terrible about myself, my image. I was always afraid of what I was going to say wrong to people. Um, I've had a really close core group of friends that are all girls. I mean, now I have friends that are men that I'm really close with, but a group of probably 7 girls that are from first to third grade, and I didn't really even venture out. Though I made other acquaintance friends, it was really hard for me. Um, Everyone like knew me and liked me and stuff, but I didn't, I probably would have done a lot more things. I was always fearful of being judged, I guess, or what people thought of me. I was fearful, and then I think I got in my first bout of kind of depression around that time. And my parents were always fighting with each other, and I was always getting involved in that, and that causes problems. And then I went to a natural doctor and got some progesterone cream. As I had been on birth control, they gave it to me for the PMS, which was the closest I became to suicidal because it was so hard for me. I was crying and I was a mess, and I gained 25 pounds in a month, and the doctor said I was a liar, and I had to eat so that I wouldn't like throw up, and it was terrible. And that was probably like the worst I think I had been. And then I took progesterone cream and started to feel a lot better. And I still had anxiety. Got really big on health. Started to try to, look into all of it. And I got really kind of healthy. And then my anxiety, I had always had nausea, but I think it kind of came in the form of nausea. And I had about a year where I just struggled with really bad nausea. And that was when I was at community college, and I would be like still trying to do my homework, but laying on the floor and doing it, and coating all my food in like mustard and sucking on lemons. And it was like I was like a pregnant woman. And that was hard, but it was also like a good time of my life. So that's something that I always think back of that confuses me, because anxiety, and I had a few anxiety attacks in there. It could have been that I just felt better about myself, my body maybe. I had lost a lot of weight. I felt good, and maybe my parents were starting to settle out, and then my brother became a drug addict. And so I was doing good, but I had the nausea, so I still had the anxiety and that kind of nausea. And then there was a few times I hallucinated. And that was right before I went to Berkeley. I was only like twice, right? Once I saw a huge spider. I don't know why. And it scared the crap out of me. And another time, I was walking to go play drums. I played the drums, and I was walking into the room, and I saw a baby's arm under the kick drum. Like it was, so the baby would have been under the rest of it. And it scared the shit out of me. So then I had never seen a psychiatrist, and then I finally saw a psychiatrist after that. It was kind of a deal with my father. I got to see a really good nutritionist if I saw a psychiatrist. So, yeah, that freaked me out. And my mom told me later, not then, that she tried to calm me down, say it was normal, that if you're going through that much stuff, it's possible. It doesn't mean that you're schizophrenic or something like that. But and then I started down the pathway of psychiatry and their infinite amount of drugs. And so that was right when I went to Berkeley. And I think I felt good at Berkeley. I think I felt good to leave my family. The night I got accepted, I told my mother I wasn't going to go. I was so scared. Didn't sleep the whole night. And then she said, well, you don't have to go. And so I did end up going, thank God. And then, yeah, so they started to give me drugs. And I took Lexapro and it didn't do anything. And I took Prozac, and it wired me. And I felt happy, and I don't think I felt anxiety, and I felt good, but I couldn't sleep. So then in came the next drug, and I also couldn't concentrate. It's like it made my concentration worse, so it was harder for me to read, which I just thought was weird, and I don't know if they connected it to it, but I love going online and reading blogs because I think people actually tell the truth, not doctors. All the doctors don't tell the truth, it's just they don't really know. And then I found out that it is common for it to actually hurt your mode of, like, your concentration. And then they gave me Vyvanse, which my brother had been on, and it's scary, he's a meth addict, so not that I wanted to become one. But yeah, so, and it's a substance that's pretty controlled, and I felt great. I loved it. I barely took any. My reading speed increased so much, like I felt normal. Like I felt like I could do everything, but I also probably felt a little too up. I mean, mixed with the Prozac and stuff. It's hard, it's hard to tell like what's normal and what's not. What's when are you too happy, when are you not? But yeah, I got stuff done. I enjoyed learning. I took Ambien, and they gave me Seroquel because they diagnosed me as bipolar. And for me at that time period, it's probably just a jumble of feelings and emotions. I don't know if I think my anxiety was definitely the first time it was better. I remember calling my parents and asking them why they didn't take me to a counselor earlier. That, like, this is what life was supposed to feel like, and that I pretty much blew my high school. And a lot of the time suffering. But I didn't know, and I don't know why I stopped. Prozac by itself is hard because I can't, it definitely makes it harder for me to focus. And then Vyvanse is now my hands are in this, my life is in the hands of psychiatrists, right? My mood's in the hands of psychiatrists. And I don't like that feeling, and it's not good when they tell you what you can and cannot have. Same with like benzos, for anxiety attacks, they tell you can't have it, and you get scared. And before I wasn't dependent on it, I didn't know that it could help me in terms of an anxiety attack. But anyways, they put me on Seroquel, and I felt like a zombie. It's pretty much like a blur of time that went by. I always felt sedated. I started drinking lots of caffeine. I never used to drink caffeine. And then when I came off of it and decided I wanted to come off of it, and found out that after 3 years it can give you diabetes and it's not great, and I heard voices. It was terribly hard to come off of it. You really can't sleep, and that's when I used like marijuana. I ate edibles, and I got it from a friend who got it from like a clinic, and I would take a set amount each day, and I think it definitely eased my process off of it. And I think I was still feeling pretty content then. I judge my contentness based off of if I'm able to be alone, and if I'm interested in what I'm usually interested in. So if